I always say, I'm a patent attorney. Do you really need this? It's just like talking to your doctor or your bank manager. And then you say, or perhaps a bit better. Because you only go and see your doctor and your bank manager. Well, I leave you to think about that. There's a limited amount of time, and you need to start by finding out where they are. What have they done so far? Have they done any searching? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's very interesting if they say yes, because you say, where? And do you know what they say? They say the internet. Fantastic. And then you say, and what did you find? And the answer is usually, there's nothing like it. Sometimes you know that their internet search at that point failed. Have they done any market research? That the answer is usually no, but everyone will want one. At which point I always say, I appreciate that I am not your normal consumer. They've probably worked that out by that point. And then you say, but look at, and I always say this in a very British context, the innovations catalogue. Some of you in this audience will never have met this, but it came with the Sunday paper. It was A5 in size, colour on every page, and it was full of innovations. Innovations of the sort that you thought to yourself, who would buy that? I remember particularly the slippers, which when you put your feet into them, there was a little switch at the end and the battery illuminated the LED so that you could see where your feet were going at night. I remember talking to someone who was responsible for the innovations catalogue, and they said, unless you can guarantee to sell 5,000, we aren't going to put it in the innovations catalogue. So think about it. Somewhere in this country, probably in the back of a cupboard, are 10,000, because they came in pairs, slippers that light up. We shall see if it's shockproof. Have they got drawings? Sometimes they have. Sometimes they're very scruffy little drawings. Other times they have got wonderful drawings or even presentations on their laptop. Do ask to see the drawings early, because that shows you what they're doing. Have they done some prototyping? Have they cleared their kitchen table and hacked about with a kitchen knife and a box of sticking plasters close by? And then you have an idea of what it is they're doing, and you can try and find out what they want to do in the future. Do they want to manufacture their idea if it's a product? Sometimes they do. If it's a little software invention, they can do it themselves. Do they, on the other hand, have this wonderful vision that someone will want to license it from them? A lot of people do have that idea, and then you have to say, well, what have you got to license? And if all you have is an idea, and it's going to take a great deal of time to turn into a product and a commercial possibility, they haven't got much. But it's okay. got to start somewhere. And the earlier you see people, the more likely you are to be able to help them, either by saying, it's great, but it won't fly, in which case, for those very few cases that will, they won't believe you and then go on to tell you later on, some years later on, that you were wrong. Great. By that time, they'll have succeeded. Another aspect of talking to people to try and help them in this context is get them to focus on one idea. So often somebody comes to you and they say, look, I've got several ideas. And you say, okay. And they start talking about one of them, and then they realize that time is passing and they start talking about the next. And you think to yourself, can the third one be worse than the previous two? And it almost invariably is. And you say to people, focus. Just decide which you're going to pursue. You talk to them about the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You don't have much time to talk about any of them, but unless they've got at least some strengths and there are some opportunities, they're probably not going to get very far. And of course, KISS, this isn't the end of the session. That would be quite inappropriate these days of political correctness. But it's an acronym which some of you will know, which translates as keep it simple, stupid. And do you know that is something that would-be developers, would-be entrepreneurs, would-be successful innovators really do need to remember? Because if you look at innovation, at heart, most of it is extremely simple. And that's because it's been kept that way by the people who have had some focus. So, what do they do next? Well, what they do next is all very well. That's up to them. What should they do next? Quite often, you can be very straightforward and suggest things to them. In terms of intellectual property, you should find out whether by this time it's too late to apply for any protection. Patent systems are notoriously unforgiving, and if they have been working on their idea for several years, you know that almost certainly it won't be secret anymore. So you abandon that. But if, on the other hand, they have an idea and they have caught up with the fact that they mustn't tell anybody else before they tell the patent office, then tell them to tell the patent office. In this country, I am glad to say, we have a wonderful system, but it is open to anybody, anywhere. Advertisement for the Intellectual Property Office coming up now, whereby you get online, you upload the description of your invention, you fill in your name and address, and the system says, I want a patent. And do you know, it gives you a patent application and a number, just like that. And it doesn't cost you anything at all. And I do not know whether other patent offices around Europe offer a similar user-friendly service. But you should all find out whether your local patent office does. I'm aware from looking at the list of those attending that there are people from many European patent offices, and I would suggest that they will know the answer, even if it takes them a telephone call. it is a tremendous assistance to people right at the very beginning that they can put their idea down on paper in their own words, using no professional assistance and therefore costing them no money, and get a patent application on file. That is really helping entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized enterprises, and inventors. It's not ideal. We think it's nicer if you have a real professionally drafted application. But if you haven't got any money, but you've got time and a good idea, write it down, and at least the British Patent Office will give you a patent application number and a filing date. Handouts, they can be useful, but people find it very difficult sometimes. It's better to target the advice rather than a handout. Finally, have they got any money? If they haven't got any money, it's tough, and they need to be clear about that. They're probably clear about it already. But, as I say, even without money, provided that they can persuade a friend to let them on a computer, they can get a patent application on file, and then they can safely start talking to people about their idea and saying, I've got the idea, you've got the money, let's make something of this together. And if you can leave anybody at the end of a surgery encouraged that even if their idea isn't great, they may be able to make something out of it. And even if they've got no money, they might be able to find somebody with some money. And even if the idea's old, if it's not around at the time, you may still be able to make some money out of it. Remember, innovation isn't always something that relies on any intellectual property at all, just the people getting there, doing the business, and making a success of it. And that's humbling. Thanks for listening.